What if I told you that in the heart of 19th century Ireland, a woman was burned off this mortal coil, but not by witch hunters, by her own family? And why would they do that, you ask? Yes, and I will tell you. They believed that she was a fairy changeling.
Morbid History.
Ireland in the late 1800s, although of course all on its way to getting all modernized and stuff as the rest of the world, was still steeped in folklore and mysticism. Their belief in the fae, the fairy world, was as real as those rolling hills and, those very random ancient stone circles that we hear so much about. Anyway, these kind of fairies were not the fluttering, friendly creatures of modern fantasy. They were mischievous, fickle, often vengeful beings lurking just beyond the veil, separating their world from ours. So of course people took precautions. Doors locked at dusk, iron left by the cradle, careful words spoken near the fairy forts. But wait, Pilvi, I hear you ask. What even is a fairy fort? To the archaeologists today, they are remains of ancient ring forts, relics of Ireland's distant past. But to the general public of 19th century Ireland, they were something far older and very, very dangerous. To tamper with a fairy fort or just walking through it and sitting there doing anything would risk you being at the end of the bad stick from the fairies. You'd risk the wrath of the unseen. The general consensus and belief was that these fairy forts were like a portal between our world and theirs. One of the beliefs was that the fairies could steal humans, usually babies but even adults, and replace them with some kind of copies known as changelings. This would explain why some children were born either with deformities or very sickly and not live for long. But why would the fae do such a thing? There were many reasons. In hopes of their changeling baby getting a better life with their new human family, or just to steal some pretty human babies out of jealousy. Or sometimes just simply as a weird little prank. Okay. But of course, what happens if these kinds of beliefs turn into live cancellations? Could you imagine living in a very tight-knit little community where the fear of these kinds of unseen spirits spiral into a full-blown mass hysteria directed at yours truly? Bridget Cleary, born in 1869, was not your average 19th century Irish woman. She was independent, fashionable, and headstrong. She even owned a Singer sewing machine. Not an easy thing to get a hold of those days. Oh my god, the scandal of it all. She indeed carved her own path in a world that expected women to be meek. Contemporary accounts also describe her of medium height, beautiful with thick dark hair, a fresh complexion and pleasing expression. She was a talented dressmaker and also sold eggs. She navigated life with a modern sensibility that some found a bit unsettling. Then, in 1887, she married a Michael Cleary, who was 9 years older than her and a maker of casks and barrels. At first their lives seemed ordinary enough. They were happy together and moved into one of the finest houses in their small town. But beneath the surface, as things usually go in these stories, jealousy, resentment, and above all, superstition stirred. And as thus, Bridget's once loving husband just flipped entirely and did the unthinkable. It all began the 13th of March, 1895. Bridget was only 26 years old when a physician was called to her bedside. She had fallen ill with what was most likely bronchitis, a treatable illness in modern times, but in an era steeped in folk remedies, her condition became something far more ominous. It did turn out that just before she fell ill, Bridget had stopped a little while at a local fairy fort while on her way to sell some eggs. There she sat down and took a little break. Some even say she left them offerings to the fairies, of course. And now her husband, her neighbors, and even own family members began to suspect otherworldly interference. She was not getting any better. As they looked down on this frail and weak, feverish woman lying there, they came to an eerie conclusion. This was not Bridget at all, but a changeling. This was now, by their logic, a fairy imposter left in Bridget's place, while the real Bridget had been stolen away into the realm of the Fae. Heck. Just imagine that kind of terror, being accused of something you're not, your very identity slipping through your fingers while you're lying there in some kind of very feverish haze. But worse yet, the cure to get rid of a changeling often ended up with the so-called changeling shuffled off this mortal coil. And so, of course, they did what they thought was the best plan. They found a different kind of doctor, one well-versed in all kinds fae, fairy, and supernatural things. And with his help, things took a very dark turn. And as thus, the rituals began. More like an exorcism than anything, actually, so yeah, let's get into it. With the help of a few of Bridget's male and female cousins and a handful of neighbors, Bridget was subjected to a brutal remedy. She was forced to drink strange herbal concoctions. She had bodily fluids thrown at her and bread stuffed down her throat. Prayers were chanted, threats were shouted. She was burned with embers and even held over an open fire. Her husband and even family members demanded that she confess. Over and over, Michael shouted at her, "Are you a fairy or a witch or the wife of Michael Cleary?" When they didn't get the reactions that they wanted out of this poor, weak woman, they just took the next logical step. They stripped her, doused her in oil, and in a final act of hysteria-fueled cruelty, set her entirely ablaze, thinking that this would drive the fairy away and bring Bridget back somehow. Her screams echoed through the night, swallowed by the countryside, and as the flames consumed her entirely, he uttered the chilling words, "She's not my wife, she's a witch sent from the fairies." Michael continued to stand firm for days after the incident. He followed local folklore, which stated that when the changeling had gone and disappeared, the human version would come back through the fairy fort riding on a white horse. So Michael, of course, for 3 nights in a row sat by the fairy fort waiting for Bridget to return. Safe to say, nothing of note occurred. And then finally, by the 16th of March, when rumors had been swirling around that Bridget was indeed missing, local authorities began searching for her. And on March the 22nd, they uncovered a shallow grave containing Bridget's charred remains in a wet bogland. The crime sent shockwaves through Ireland and beyond. The trial was sensational, not just for its horror, but for what it revealed about the deep-seated beliefs still gripping the people. In total, 11 individuals were arrested, including Michael Cleary. But in the end, he was convicted of a manslaughter rather than murder. And this was because he was not intent on actually getting rid of his wife, and he did all this by an act of what we would say insanity or a very strong held belief. So he got 15 years for manslaughter instead, for burning his poor wife. Bridget Cleary's story is more than a tragedy. It's a testament to the dangers of ignorance. We like to think we've moved beyond such things. But have we? What beliefs do we hold today that might be very questionable tomorrow, in 100 years, way off in the future? Hi, if you enjoyed this little video, please like, comment and subscribe and hit the bell. It doesn't hurt you at all, but it helps my channel so much with that elusive algorithm. And yeah, do you have any morbid tales? It could be folklore, true crime, mythology, anything from our dark past that you wanna recommend. Just comment down below and I'll make sure to check it out. And I'm also forever grateful to my heroes, my Patreon members and my YouTube members. It's thanks to you I'm able to make these videos because I get to pay for my editing software and all that other jazz that I need to make them. So thank you. You're all amazing. Mwah. So, as usual, until next time, stay amazing, stay hydrated, and most of all, stay morbid. And I'll see you very soon. Bye bye!